The Cardinal King here, welcoming you once again into the Cardinal Cave. And if you haven't seen the last two videos in our series of AI generated Yu-Gi-Oh cards, you should go there right now. Here's a link on top. So once again, we are doing AI generated Yu-Gi-Oh card using Midjourney AI. I am a professional painter by trade, and you could also say I direct art, wink wink, like we said in the first video. So let's get right onto it. Cardinal King here from the near distant future, the year 2000. And I'm here to say that you can buy prints of all this awesome artwork and the awesome artwork from the last two videos by scanning this QR code now.
Limited edition prints available for sale.
Thanks for watching the video and supporting the channel, guys. I really appreciate it. Don't forget that the prints are limited editions of 10. Once they're out and never to be printed again. Our first card is the Red Eyes Black Dragon, and this is a classic Duel Monster Zero monster. If you know Yu-Gi-Oh, you know it. We did the Blue Eyes in the first episode. That was the very first time I used Midjourney. And yeah, this one was really hard to do. The machine had a massive problem. If I just put in Red Eyes Black Dragon, it always wanted to do close-ups of a dragon with red eyes, so it obviously didn't know what it was. So we had to go with the prompt, Flying Black Dragon. We trained this first image here on the art of Bayard Wu, who is a Magic the Gathering artist. I actually really like the top right one and the bottom right one. Not too hot about the other ones though. Again, this is one of the first ones we ran, so it was just very fixated on the red eyes. Maybe we put in a little too much detail there. This is one that we got from another variation that looks cool because it looks like he's like flying head on into you. So originally we were going to roll with this guy. And here's a variation, a refinement on the top right one. These don't look great. We did a full render on the top right one. This one actually looks awesome because it looks like he looks very Final Fantasy-ish. You know what I mean? He looks specifically like the ship in Final Fantasy VIII. But yeah, this is the one we actually went with because look at how awesomely that's rendered. The clouds in the background are beautiful. He looks more like a giant black raven than he does a dragon, but you can see the red eye there, and like he's got the kind of beak instead of a dragon mouth. But it looks awesome. So here's the full art, and here's the art on the card. Next up, we have Infinite Impermanence, a modern Yu-Gi-Oh staple. And at first, we just plugged in Infinite Impermanence Cyberpunk because the card is pretty cyber because it has a cyber end dragon, or not cyber end dragon, some cyber dragon variation on the card, right? So we didn't get anything too interesting out of that. Next, I went ahead and trained it on some Mesoamerican art. So I have some photos from a museum in Mexico City. And we did the snake with wings. And then we also put in like Aztec. And this is what it rolled out with. And I actually really like the two top ones. So we asked for a render of top left, which is this. So that's more like someone wearing like a traditional like setup type deal. And they have the wings in the background. And I really like this, but the render we got here on the top right one, we asked for two variations. This rightmost render looked awesome, so I wanted another render of that. And we got this one originally, which is a little bit more like, well, he's almost like an alebrije, which is like a piece of Mexican art that has very colorful stuff. And I like this, but then we got this other render, which is more like closer to like a snake with wings to it. And I love that the crescent part of the wings and the tail wrapping around it make the figure 8 for the Infinite Impermanence. So I love that little detail. And on this one I didn't plug in the word Infinite Impermanence at all, so the machine figured it out all on itself, which makes it awesome. So here is the full art, and here's the art on the card. Okay, we have the Blackluster Soldier, classic Yu-Gi-Oh card, one of Yu-Gi-Oh's Yugi's ace monsters. And originally we plugged in Blackluster Soldier, and these are the results it gave us. I really like the top left one. So we asked for a render of that, and this one's awesome. Like I love the color of the roses here, and we used the art of Blair Layton, who draws a lot of like fantasy, you know, knights in shining armor. So that's kind of the deal I was going for originally. This is not quite that, but we gave it another go, right? And the top left one looks awesome. Like that is like how I would imagine like a Magic the Gathering, you know, Blackluster soldier. And yeah, like this one's very close to that Blair Layton style. Like the background of it's beautiful. So here's the full art, and here's the art on the card. Alright guys, we got Summon Skull, another classic Duel Monsters era monster, and another Yu-Gi-Oh! Ace. This one was hard. Like I had to render this out a bunch of times. We wanted to get like a Magic the Gathering type deal going. So I did Skeleton Demon with Thunder. At first I had put in Summon Skull, but it always just gave me just the skull. So it didn't know what a Summon Skull was, so I had to go with Skeleton Demon with Thunder, Magic the Gathering style. This one I don't think I used a training image. So I wanted to grab like a breadth of those images. I really like the bottom left here on this first variation set. Then we rolled another set. These are variations on that bottom left one. There's something kind of nice about that shape he's got in the back, which is almost like a thunder rod. So that's kind of how he gets the lightning, right? We rolled another 4 here from another set that we had, and I actually really like the top right one here. So we rolled a variation on it, which is this guy. This one's very cool looking, but it looks like he has a scythe in his right hand, and he has like multiple like ghost hands, and it doesn't quite sell Summon Skull, even though there is a thunderbolt on the bottom left. And here's a rendered one of that other one I liked from that first series. Originally we were gonna roll with this guy, but I rendered this guy from that third series. And I actually really liked how like he's got the swords for hands, but he's also like enveloped in that thunder, so he can summon it at any moment, right? And it also looks like the thunder is almost like his hair, dude, so it has a very menacing presence. So here is the full art, and here's the art on the card. Alright, we've got another modern classic Yu-Gi-Oh card, which is Baronne de Fleur. And this one I wanted to base off of this art piece, and I actually used that art piece as the training model for it, for an artist called Peter Paul Rubens, which is one of my favorites. And I've actually seen this art piece in person. I actually used to go and stare at it for hours because it inspired me a lot. And it is a portrait of a soldier wearing a red scarf. So the first set that we got when we put in just Baronne de Fleur, we got these portraits of these women. They all have that kind of like red accent to them. Any of these is acceptable. They look cool. Very close to the style I was going for. But I want to try another one where I put in female knight in armor on horse. And I actually really liked all the top left one, bottom right one. They all looked awesome. I ended up going for a render of top left. Well, here I did variations on top left. Wasn't quite happy with these, so we rendered out the original and it gave us this. And this looks really cool, and it looks very close to that Rubens style. I think the machine did a really good job. I'm starting to find that the more references that the machine can probably find in its database or wherever it pulls images from, the closer and better it gives you of an image. So we did a remix on this guy, and I just wasn't a fan of any of these remixes. These all look very generic. Like, you lose the side of the fact that she's a woman. Same with these guys, just look like very generic knights, although the one on the right has some hair. So we'll go back to the finished piece, which is here, and then we put the piece on the card, which is here. All right, we've got Solemn Judgement, and this is one that if you're from the AI community, you'll remember from your schoolyard days. If you're from the Yu-Gi-Oh community, you will remember because it's always been played since the game started. So we wanted to go with, the style I wanted to go here was Russian triptychs. So these are these trifolds that have this like religious art on them usually. And Solemn Judgement is he's supposed to be the Judeo-Christian god, right? So I remember when I was a kid, I used to play that card, and every time I flipped it, I'd say God says no, right? So the top right one here, we did the first prompt was God with two angels outstretching his hand, because that's what the card depicts, right? It's God stretching his hand, saying no, with the two angels on his side. So I really like the symmetry on the top right one. That one just did it for me for whatever reason. It really sold triptych. And we did another render here just using the word Solemn Judgement without any additional things, and it knew what it was. Like, that must be like the top hit on Google or the database or wherever. So I actually really like the top left one. So this one was a super hard choice. The top right one as well is actually really nice because it shows the two angels bowing. So we did some variations on top left. I like the top left one on this one and the bottom right one on this one. We did a render of what is this one? The bottom right. And this one has like a cool vibe to it, man. Like it is very close to those Russian triptychs, and it has kind of like a little bit more of an Eastern vibe to it. Like it's like a very like Orthodox church type deal. But for whatever reason, when I did the full render of the top right on the first variation set, wow, this is awesome. Like this looks exactly like what you would imagine the triptych version of Solemn Judgement would look like. So we did a remaster on it, and these are a little too literal. Like they lose kind of that beautiful like abstraction of it. So here is the full art, and here is the art on the card. Next up, we have another card that is very malaligned, unfortunately, which I love playing, which is Eldlitch the Golden Lord. So the very first one we inputted was Eldlitch the Golden Lord, and we used the Mesoamerican images that we use for the training of the Infinite Impermanence card. If you haven't seen the second video, go back and see it. It looked awesome. So this one looks kind of like the Golden Eldland. We had put El Dorado in the description, so maybe it thought we were looking more for that. So for the next one, I put in something that was a little less literal, since obviously it didn't know what the Golden Lord was Eldritch, so I put in Conquistador Zombie in golden armor. And I wasn't super hot about any of these variations. We ran it again, and this one got a little closer. I like the top left one. That one has like a more traditional like Conquistador Crusader type vibe to it, so we rendered it out. And I actually really like this. I like that the robot signed it with a bunch of zeros and ones. Like that's a cool little, side note there. But for whatever reason, I did some variations, and the one on the left here really drew my attention, because the lore of the card is that he's like a very powerful wizard who got this, alchemist stone, and every time he uses it, drives him a little bit more crazy. So this one kind of sells that he's like not completely a zombie, because the skull is actually a mask, and he's still like a man underneath there, just a very powerful wizard man. So for whatever reason, like this one really sold me on that he could be either a conquistador or he could be an Aztec warrior at the same time. We don't know. And the card art, we also don't know. Like we don't know if he was from the Golden City or if he was one of the conquistadors that came to try to find it. So that's the full art, the full card art, or the full art, and here's the card art. We have another god card here, the Winged Dragon of Ra. And we did Slifer in the last episode. For Ra, I wanted to go with Japanese Sumei arc instead of just going with the stereotypical like, oh, well, he's Egyptian, so let's do Egyptian art. On this first set, I love the bottom left one, and we did end up going with the prompt Winged Dragon of Ra, Sumei art, and we trained it on a couple like famous Sumei pieces. I did a variation set on that first one. I thought these were a little too literal. I do like the one on the left, but it's a little too literal. So we rendered out that very bottom left one. It looks awesome. It has that kind of like chicken tail that Ra has here. Like this would have been a very acceptable one, and for whatever reason it almost looks like a logo, right? Like it has like a very symmetrical deal going on, which looks beautiful, to be honest. For whatever reason I just wanted to go for a couple more variations. So the top right one immediately drew my attention because that looks like the side silhouette of the Winged Dragon of Ra. So we rendered it out, and you know, well enough, it looks like the Winged Dragon of Ra in silhouette, so I went with that one. It looks beautiful. Here is the full card art, and here's the art on the card. We've got Joey's Flame Swordsman, and iconic dual monster card, right? And for this one, I did another Frank Frazetta type deal. We did a lot of Frank Frazettas in the last episode, including a really kick-ass Dark Magician. And we wanted to do, I really like the top left one. The bottom left, I did a couple explorations of that one. I didn't like the top right one because it looks like he was on fire and not the sword. So we just set out another set here, and I actually like the top left one a lot. But again, did another set. Once more, I kind of like the bottom right one here. So here are some renders. I believe this one is the bottom right one of that second one I did, where it looks like he's kind of like holding the sword up and he's got like some fire going on at the same time. We did a render of one of the first ones, which I think was the bottom left one on the first variation set, where it looks like he's swinging the sword from behind, so you're kind of just seeing like his side. And then we did the one we ended up going with, which was this one that looks like he's holding like almost like a scimitar spear type sword deal, but it's on fire, and you can make out the outline of his hair, and you can see the mask there. I mean, this one looks awesome. Like that, I'm sold on that being the Flame Swordsman, you know? So here is the full art, and here's the art on the card. Last but not least, I have everyone's favorite card, the one that they love playing against the most interactive card in the game, Mystic Mine. And for Mystic Mine, we did these 4 variations. I actually tried putting in Mystic Mine, but it was a little too broad. So I did, and this one I didn't train on any image. I just let the machine pick it out, right? So I did a Mystic Mine with a wizard attacking 2 soldiers, just kind of like it is in the card art. And we got this one, which really sells the mine aspect. The colors on this are awesome. Look at that, like that pink is perfect. You can kind of see the silhouette here on the bottom left of the wizard, but you don't see the 2 soldiers. This next one, you can see the wizard fighting 1 soldier. I actually almost went with this one because I like that depiction of the wizard kind of like scarily holding out the staff here, and the soldier's like, oh man, I gotta go fight this wizard, but I'm on his home turf. I can't activate my effects. This next one has the wizard, but I like the fact that it's like a portal, but it almost looks like the wizard is hanging out with the 2 soldiers instead of beating them up. And I ended up going with this last one because you can make out the soldiers, the mine looks pretty mystic, and the wizard, he's massive. Like if you go fight that wizard, he's gonna mess you up. So here's the full art version of it, and here's the art on the card. Alright guys, that is the end of the 3rd set of AI generated Yu-Gi-Oh! All arts. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the goofy things that YouTubers ask you to do. Here's a little voice you might recognize.
Subscribe to the Cardinal King.
This has been the Cardinal King. Out.